Rot in prison, Dad, while we take everything you've ever worked for. Sienna smiled when she said it. That hurt more than the cuffs snapping shut around my wrists. I stood there, a 67-year-old man, watching my own child celebrate as I was dragged away in chains. Cameras flashed, strangers judged, and the city I'd served turned its back. She thought I had no one left to call. She thought the story ended there. But when the cell door slammed shut, the warden hesitated. His eyes dropped to the ring on my finger, and for the first time that day, someone looked afraid. Before we continue, drop a quick comment. Where are you watching this from right now, and what time is it there? Judge Leonard Shaw had just sentenced me to 5 years in federal prison for insurance fraud and bribery. Crimes I never committed. Crimes they fabricated with false documents, bought testimony, and a performance so convincing the jury swallowed it whole. Kendall sat in the front row, arm-linked through her husband Blake's. She leaned close and whispered something that made him laugh, loud enough for me to hear from where I stood, shackled like a common criminal. The judge banged his gavel, but it didn't matter anymore. The verdict had been read. Kendall and Blake rose from their seats. He draped his arm over her shoulders, and together they walked toward the courtroom doors, with the arrogance of people who'd just won a war. Kendall turned back one last time. What I saw in her eyes wasn't sadness or regret. It was satisfaction. Finally, she said, just loud enough for me to hear, "Everything you have is ours now, Dad." They walked out to celebrate. I knew exactly where they'd go, some overpriced steakhouse in downtown Denver, champagne flowing, already planning how to spend the $2.8 million I'd saved over 35 years of service. Money earned through double shifts and a lifetime of running into burning buildings when everyone else ran out. The deputy tugged my arm, forcing me to stand. At 67, every sudden movement is torture. My knees protested, but I forced myself to stay composed. I wouldn't give them the pleasure of seeing me crumble. As they led me toward the side exit, I heard whispers from the gallery. Some looked at me with pity, others with disgust. An older woman who'd been a friend of my late wife, Sarah, looked away when our eyes met. The shame weighed almost as heavy as the handcuffs. Then I looked down at my hand, at the ring still there, the National Firefighters Medal of Valor. Only 100 firefighters in the country wear this ring. Serial number 0847, Warren Callahan, Denver Fire Department. 35 years served, 47 commendations. They'd left it on me. Rings aren't dangerous. They had no idea what it meant or what doors it could open. Sarah died 6 years ago. Cancer took her. I raised Kendall alone after working every shift I could get to pay for her future. Somewhere along the way, she stopped calling. When Blake Walsh arrived, smooth and charming, the distance became a canyon. I didn't trust him, but I stayed quiet, checkbook ready. I should have seen it coming. The urgent requests, the questions about my assets. The papers Blake said were formalities. I trusted my daughter, and she used that trust to destroy me. The bailiff shoved me outside into winter air. Cameras flashed. Reporters shouted. I kept walking toward the van. As it drove away, Denver's skyline faded. The city I served. The lives I saved. Now it believed I was guilty. They were wrong. Kendall and Blake were wrong. I had one chance, one phone call. I knew exactly who to reach. I just had to survive long enough to make it. I would endure prison walls, silence, and time itself, because truth still lived beyond steel bars. And when that call connected, every lie would collapse. And justice would finally return my name to the city I loved and served faithfully always. 20 minutes later, I sat in a windowless processing room at the Denver County Detention Center. The air reeked of cheap disinfectant, failing to hide decades of sweat and despair. Cream-colored walls peeled at the corners, exposing layers of unfinished renovations. Plastic chairs were bolted to cracked linoleum. A scarred metal desk sat in the center, dented by years of use. Overhead fluorescent lights flickered irregularly, drilling a steady ache into my skull. Officer Curtis Flynn sat behind the desk, reviewing my file page by page. Early 40s. The kind of exhaustion that comes from work that demands everything and gives nothing back. His uniform was clean but worn pressed with care, a man proud of small things because the big ones never came. I watched him silently observing, reading, skills earned over 35 years of evaluating people under pressure. His wristwatch was dead. The leather band cracked, barely holding together. His boots were scuffed beyond saving soles, uneven from years of standing. A personal phone lay beside my file, an old model with a shattered screen he clearly couldn't afford to replace. Every few minutes, Flynn glanced at the wall clock and sighed. Not boredom, counting time. A man measuring how long until he could escape a life that probably wasn't much better than this room. I knew that look. I'd seen it on firefighters working triple shifts for braces and rent, on single fathers crushed by debt, on good men slowly ground down by responsibility. As Flynn reviewed my charges, my thoughts drifted to how I'd ended up here. 8 months earlier, Blake began asking about my finances, the house value, retirement accounts, insurance policies. I assumed it was curiosity, maybe advice-seeking. I answered honestly, like a fool. 6 months ago, he pitched an investment opportunity, real estate in Aurora. He needed my signature on partnership documents. Something felt wrong. The language was vague. The terms favored him. I refused to sign without my own lawyer. Blake's smile froze. His eyes turned cold. That was the first crack in the mask. 4 months ago, Kendall stopped returning my calls. When I finally reached her, she sounded distant, rehearsed. Too busy. Too stressed. Blake's voice hovered in the background, guiding her words. 2 months ago, federal agents arrived at my door at 6 a.m. They arrested me for accepting $500,000 in insurance bribes. They accused me of fast-tracking claims for corporations while delaying desperate families. In court, the evidence looked airtight. Emails from my account. Bank deposits I couldn't explain. Contracts bearing my forged signature. Testimony from Neil Chapman, an accountant who swore he processed the bribes himself. Every piece was fake, manufactured. But my assets were frozen. I couldn't afford a defense. The public defender was overwhelmed. He tried, but Blake's lawyers buried him under fabricated proof. And now here I was, convicted, sentenced, awaiting transfer to federal prison for crimes I didn't commit. I needed to get out, needed that call. But how could I convince Flynn to bend protocol for a man in shackles? Flynn closed the file and met my eyes, tired but not cruel. Transport's here in 30 minutes, he said flatly. You need water or the restroom? I held his gaze. I need to make a phone call. He shook his head. Not here. You'll get one after intake. Protocol. I leaned forward against the cuffs. What if I told you I could change your life? My voice was low, certain. The voice I'd used telling people to trust me or die. Flynn froze. His hand stopped mid-motion. Suspicion warred with hope, the look of a man offered a rope while drowning. What are you talking about? He asked quietly. Flynn stared at me, waiting for an explanation. I kept my voice calm. Officer Flynn, you're a man who works hard but doesn't get paid what you're worth. His jaw tightened. What the hell are you talking about? Your watch stopped months ago, but you haven't replaced it because $50 is $50 you don't have. The soles of your shoes are worn through. Your phone screen is shattered. And you check that wall clock every 10 minutes like you're counting down to freedom. I paused. You have a family, a sick wife. 3 kids who need more than $45,000 a year can give them. His jaw clenched harder. How do you? I spent 35 years reading people in burning buildings, knowing who would panic, who would stay calm, who would run into flames or away from them. I recognize desperation, and I recognize opportunity. What do you want? 1 phone call, 5 minutes. Can't do it. Regulations. Regulations say you'll work this job 40 more years and retire with a pension that won't cover your wife's medical bills. I leaned forward against the cuffs. Or you give me 5 minutes and get a house, 4 bedrooms, safe neighborhood, good schools, no mortgage, free and clear. Flynn stared like I was insane. You're crazy. I'm Chief Warren Callahan, retired, full pension, $2.8 million in assets. My daughter and her husband framed me to steal it all. The person I need to call can prove it. When I'm free, I keep my promise, a house for your family. Everyone says they're innocent. Most don't have this. I lifted my cuffed hands showing the ring. National Firefighters Medal of Valor. Only 100 exist. See the serial number, look it up. Warren Callahan. Denver Fire Department. 35 years. 47 commendations. No discipline. Ever. Flynn studied the ring. The inscription was unmistakable. 100 bravest. Number 847. Warren Callahan. Why risk my job for a stranger? Because you've thought about breaking the law for money? Taking a bribe? Stealing evidence? Something worse. I can see it. You're that desperate. My voice softened. I'm offering a legal way out. 5 minutes. If I'm lying, you lose nothing. If I'm telling the truth, your family's future changes forever. Silence filled the room. Flynn looked at the ring at me at the cracked phone on his desk. My daughter Lily is 14, he said quietly. Straight A's. wants to be a doctor. We live in a 2-bedroom place where we hear gunshots every week. My wife needs insulin, $800 a month. My son sleeps on the couch. I work double shifts just to stay afloat. Then help me so I can help you." Flynn closed his eyes, wrestling with it. When he opened them, he'd decided. He picked up his personal phone and slid it across the desk. 5 minutes, he said. "If this is a con, I'll make sure you never see daylight again." I nodded. "Thank you, Officer Flynn. You just changed everything." I lifted the phone with both cuffed hands as the screen lit up. Flynn stepped back, hand near his holster, watching closely. I dialed a sequence I'd memorized 20 years ago. A number I prayed still worked. The number of the only person powerful enough to undo all of this. The phone rang once, then twice. Then a voice I hadn't heard in 6 months came through. "Governor Richmond speaking." I took a deep breath. "Kathleen, it's Warren Callahan." Silence. Then Warren. "My God, where have you been? I tried calling you a few months ago, but your number was disconnected." "I'm in a processing room at a detention center. I've been arrested, convicted, and sentenced to 5 years in federal prison for crimes I didn't commit." "What?" Her voice sharpened immediately with anger. "That's impossible. Warren, what the hell is going on?" My daughter and her husband fabricated evidence. Fake emails, forged bank records, bought testimony from a corrupt accountant. They convinced a jury I was taking bribes from insurance companies. I'm scheduled for transport to federal prison in... I glanced at Flynn, who held up 3 fingers. 25 minutes. That's insane. You're one of the most honest people I've ever known. Warren, you saved my life. You saved 50 other lives. 20 years ago, the Grand Vista Hotel fire in downtown Denver. I was off duty attending a firefighter charity gala on the 12th floor when the alarm sounded. The fire started in the kitchen from a gas line explosion. Flames spread fast, crawling through the ventilation shafts. I didn't run. I stayed. I went floor to floor, breaking down doors, pulling people from smoke-filled rooms. I found Kathleen Richmond, then the mayor of a small Colorado town, unconscious in a 9th-floor hallway. I carried her down 4 flights of stairs through smoke so thick I couldn't see my own hands. By the time the other firefighters arrived, I'd evacuated 50 people. I had 2nd-degree burns on my arms and smoke inhalation so bad I spent a week in the hospital. Kathleen visited me every single day during my recovery. She never forgot what I'd done. "I remember," I said quietly. "I'm calling in that debt, Kathleen. You don't owe me anything. I owe you everything. Tell me what you need. I need you to believe me when I say I'm innocent. I need you to use your authority to review this case. And I need it done before they lock me. Somewhere I can't reach anyone." "Consider it done." Her voice went cold, the tone of a governor who'd been hardened by 2 decades of Colorado's politics. "Give me the case number, the judge's name, everything. I'll have my legal team on this within the hour. And Warren, you're not going anywhere. I'm issuing an immediate order to halt your transport." I read her the information. Throughout the conversation, Flynn stood watching, his eyes growing wider with each sentence. When I hung up, I carefully set the phone down and looked at Flynn. "Who the hell are you?" Flynn whispered. "Someone they never should have touched," I said simply. Flynn stared at me with a mixture of awe and fear, realizing he'd just helped a man with connections, reaching straight into the governor's office. "Officer Flynn," I said, "you might want to start looking for houses in Aurora. Good schools there, very safe neighborhoods." Flynn opened his mouth to say something, but no words came out. 2 hours after that call, everything began to shift. I was still in the same processing room when Flynn received a call from his supervisor. The color drained from his face as he listened. When he hung up, he stared at his phone, then at me. "What the hell did you do, Callahan?" he asked. "I just got a direct order from a federal judge to halt your transport." "A federal judge." Before I could respond, the door opened. A man in his 50s stepped inside, wearing a tailored suit that probably cost $3,000. He moved with the calm confidence of someone who had spent a lifetime winning high-stakes battles. "Chief Callahan," he said, extending his hand. "Samuel Briggs, Governor Richmond, sent me." For the first time that day, the weight crushing my chest lifted slightly. Samuel turned to Flynn. "Officer, we need this room. Private." Flynn looked between us, still stunned, then quietly stepped outside. Samuel sat across from me and opened his briefcase. "Kathleen called me 90 minutes ago, told me to drop everything and get you out. So let me tell you what's happened while you've been sitting here." I listened carefully. "Within 30 minutes of her call, my team started tearing apart your case file," he said. "Chief, the evidence against you is garbage. Professionally staged garbage, but garbage. What do you mean? I asked. The emails supposedly sent from your account, Samuel replied. The metadata doesn't match. One message dated March 15th at 2:47 p.m., allegedly sent from your home computer. I was at a memorial service in Colorado Springs that day, I said immediately, more than 100 miles away. There were witnesses, photos, a sign-in sheet. Exactly, Samuel said, sliding documents toward me. We confirmed it. And those bank statements showing deposits into your account. The routing numbers are fake. Those accounts don't exist at First National Bank. Whoever framed you got careless. I stared at the paperwork, technical analyses, draft motions, witness summaries. Things my public defender never had the time or resources to pursue. Neil Chapman, I said, the accountant who testified, he's the key. We agree, Samuel nodded. Detective Conrad Mills is already bringing him in. Financial crimes specialist. Former military. Chapman will crack once he realizes he's facing federal prison. How long before this is fixed? I asked. Normally months, Samuel said. Appeals, hearings, red tape. But with the governor involved and fraud this obvious. He closed the briefcase. Days, maybe less. He stood. I've practiced law 25 years. I can tell guilt in minutes. You're not guilty. Someone set you up and they made mistakes. My daughter, I said quietly. She believes it. Or she wants to, Samuel replied gently. Sometimes people accept lies because the truth threatens everything they've built. He knocked. Flynn stepped back inside. Officer Flynn, Samuel said the governor is aware you did the right thing. I'll handle the legal details of what Chief Callahan promised. Flynn looked at me overwhelmed. You're not going to prison, Samuel said. By tomorrow we'll know who's behind this. And when we do, they'll wish they never said your name. 24 hours later, Samuel returned. His face said it all. I was in a private holding cell protective custody. Samuel walked in and set a thick file on the table. Chapman broke, he said. Confessed to everything. I exhaled relief, mixing with rage. Tell me. Samuel sat. Detective Mills had him for 3 hours. Laid out the forensic evidence, fake routing numbers, metadata problems. Chapman realized he was facing 5 years federal time. So he talked. He slid a transcript across. Read what he said. You deserve to know. I picked up the pages. Blake Walsh contacted me 8 months ago. Gave me $15,000 up front, promised 20 more after conviction. I owed $60,000 in gambling debts. They were threatening to break my legs. Blake said Callahan was already guilty. We were just making sure justice got served. So I created fake bank accounts, fake emails, made it look like he was taking insurance bribes. $15,000. That was the price of my honor. My 35 years. My life. Did Kendall know? I asked, dreading the answer. No. Blake told Chapman you and Kendall barely spoke. Said she'd believe whatever he told her. He used the distance between you as a weapon. It hurt because it was true. After Sarah died, I threw myself into work. Kendall found Blake to fill the void I'd left, and Blake exploited it. There's more, Samuel said, voice darkening. Blake owes $200,000 to an illegal casino in Golden, Russian gangs. But, Chief, this wasn't just about your money. What do you mean? Samuel pulled another file. The Griffin family fire, 5 years ago in Lakewood. My heart stopped. Father, mother, 3 kids. Barely made it out. Insurance paid $300,000. I always suspected arson, but couldn't prove it. Blake and Kendall bought their house 5 years ago. Cash payment $280,000. Right after that payout. Blood turned to ice. Blake set that fire. Mills thinks so. Chapman said Blake got drunk one night, told him, the old man should thank me if he knew what I really did. He'd kill me himself. I stood unable to sit. 35 years of seeing what fire does to people. The thought of Blake deliberately burning a house with a family inside. You investigated that case, Samuel continued. Unofficially after retirement. Blake found out. He knew if you proved arson, he'd go down for attempted murder. So he didn't just frame you for money. He framed you to silence you. I sat hard, gut-punched. He tried to kill 5 people, and when I got too close, he destroyed my life. Mills is reopening Griffin. Financial records, phone logs, everything. If Blake did it, we'll prove it. What now? We can get you released today. Arrest Blake and Kendall immediately. Samuel paused. But Mills wants to wait. What? Your daughter's hosting an auction tomorrow night. Fire station number 9. Public event cameras everywhere. She's auctioning your house, your savings, your entire life at the place you worked 30 years. Samuel's eyes turned steel. Mills thinks we should let them think they won. Let Kendall condemn you in front of the city. Then walk in and expose the truth before everyone? I thought about it, watching Kendall stand where I'd saved lives calling me a criminal, letting her taste victory 1 minute before it collapsed. Part of me wanted over now, but the firefighter in me knew sometimes you let flames peak before extinguishing them completely. Do it, I said. Let them have their moment, then show them real justice. Samuel smiled coldly. Governor Richmond will be there. Captain Benson called yesterday. 15 firefighters active and retired want to stand with you tomorrow night. 15 people, my brothers. My throat tightened. I thought I was alone. You never were, Chief, Samuel said quietly. You just didn't know who your real family was. Your daughter learns an expensive lesson about underestimating the people who love you. Inside, the lights burned like a theater stage. Cars lined the street for blocks. Familiar faces passed through the doors. Insurance executives, investors, reporters from the Denver Post. Ready, Samuel asked quietly beside me. Not yet, I said. I want to hear what she says first. We waited in the shadows. Governor Richmond was already inside with 15 firefighters waiting for the signal. The plan was simple. Let Kendall speak. Let her condemn me and then let the truth walk in. Through the window, I saw Kendall near the podium. Elegant black dress, hair pulled back, the perfect image of a grieving daughter. Blake stood by the entrance in an expensive suit, shaking hands, smiling like he owned the building. My son-in-law, the man I'd welcomed into my family, the man who had burned my life to the ground. Samuel listened through a small earpiece and whispered what he heard. Kendall stepped up. Her voice echoed through the speakers. Good evening. Thank you all for coming. Her voice trembled, controlled, practiced. As many of you know, my father, Warren Callahan, was recently convicted of corruption and bribery. For 35 years, he served this station and this city. He was a hero to us, or so we believed. Hearing those words inside the building where I'd spent most of my life hurt more than prison ever could. The truth, Kendall continued, is that my father betrayed everything this uniform stands for. He took bribes. He prioritized the wealthy over families in need. He profited while others suffered. Samuel glanced at me. You holding up? I nodded, fists clenched. As his only daughter, Kendall said, I'm devastated. But I believe in transparency. My father's assets are tainted. Tonight, we are auctioning them. All proceeds will go to victims of insurance fraud and the firefighter charity fund to restore honor to a badge he tarnished. Polite applause followed. Blake joined her hand on her shoulder. My wife has shown incredible strength. Warren manipulated her for years. Tonight, we correct that lie. Now, Samuel said softly, it's time. The station doors burst open. Cold air rushed in. Through the glass, I saw Governor Kathleen Richmond enter in a gray coat, her expression ice cold. Behind her, 15 firefighters marched in dress uniforms, medals gleaming. Among them were Captain Roy Benson, 68, leaning on a cane, and firefighter Max Palmer, broad-shouldered and silent. Samuel whispered, The room just froze. Kendall looks confused. Blake's smiling stopped. Kathleen walked to the center, not the podium. Miss Callahan, her voice carried before you. Sell your father's life. These people deserve the truth. She gestured behind her. Captain Benson stepped forward. November 14th, 1998. Warehouse fire. I was trapped under a beam. Warren Callahan crawled through fire and carried me out. He saved my life. Max Palmer followed. April 2003. 6-alarm apartment fire. Warren went back in 4 times. Pulled out a mother and 3 kids. 2nd-degree burns. Never complained. One by one, firefighters spoke rescues, sacrifices, lives saved. Samuel whispered, Reporters are recording. Cameras everywhere. Kendall's pale. Blake's whispering urgently. I watched my daughter's composure crumble. Blake's grip tightened. The crowd shifted doubt, spreading. Finally, Governor Richmond spoke. 20 years ago, Warren Callahan pulled me from a burning hotel, carried me down 4 flights while blinded by smoke. When I thanked him, he said, I was just doing my job. Her voice hardened. This man was framed, and tonight justice begins. Samuel looked at me. Ready? I took one last look at the station that shaped me. Let's go. The door opened. Light spilled out. I stepped inside, and every whisper died. I walked into the room, and every head turned. Silence fell instantly heavy and absolute. Dozens of eyes locked onto me at once. I looked straight at my daughter. Kendall's face drained of color. She raised a trembling hand to her mouth. No, you were supposed to be in prison, I said calmly. The voice of a man who had walked through fire and lived. That's where you wanted me, wasn't it? I walked slowly down the center aisle. Each step echoed through the room. Blake grabbed Kendall's arm and pulled her away from the podium. His eyes flicked toward the exits. I noticed. So did Detective Conrad Mills, who had just entered and quietly positioned himself to block the door. Samuel Briggs followed behind me, briefcase in hand. I stopped 10 feet from the podium, close enough to see every detail of Kendall's face. The daughter I raised alone after Sarah died. The child I worked extra shifts for. The woman who had tried to sell my life to strangers. Kendall, I said gently, do you know what the worst part of this is? She didn't answer. Tears fell real this time. The worst part is you never asked me. You never called, never visited, never said, Dad, is this true? You just believed him. I pointed at Blake. You trusted a man you'd known 3 years over the father who raised you for 31. I saw the evidence, she whispered. The emails, the bank records. Fabricated, Samuel Briggs said, stepping forward. Every email, every document, every record, all fake. Created by your husband and an accountant named Neil Chapman. Blake's face twitched. That's a lie, he shouted. As it Samuel opened his briefcase. Chapman confessed 2 days ago. He admitted the payments Blake made. The forged routing numbers, the altered metadata. He raised the papers. Sworn statements. Forensic proof. The entire case against Warren Callahan was manufactured. Cameras flashed. Reporters surged forward, shouting questions. Blake backed away, sweat beading on his forehead. You can't prove. Oh, we can prove plenty, Detective Mills said, stepping into the center. He displayed his badge. We can prove fraud, perjury, and witness tampering. And we can prove something else. He opened another file. The Griffin family fire. Lakewood, 5 years ago. Remember that, Mr. Walsh. Blake went pale. Father, mother, 3 children. Mills continued. Fire ruled accidental. Insurance payout $300,000. But Chief Callahan didn't believe it. He kept investigating, quietly. Mills glanced at me. You were close, weren't you? Yes, I said, locking eyes with Blake. 1 week from turning in evidence when you had me arrested. The room gasped. That's insane, Blake screamed. You bought your house 5 years ago, Mills said. $280,000 in cash. Right after that payout. And you owe $200,000 to an illegal casino. This wasn't just about stealing Warren's money. It was about silencing him. Blake turned and ran. He made 3 steps before officers blocked him. Blake Walsh Mills said you're under arrest for conspiracy, perjury, arson, and attempted murder. Blake struggled as they cuffed him. Mills turned to Kendall. Kendall Callahan, you're under arrest for conspiracy to commit fraud. No. She broke down, turning to me. Dad, I didn't know about the fire. Blake told me you were corrupt. He showed me proof. I thought I was doing the right thing. I looked at her and saw not my daughter, but the choice she'd made. You believed him without letting me defend myself, I said softly. That's what I can't forgive. They cuffed her as she sobbed. I turned away, past the governor, past my brothers, past the noise. Outside cold air filled my lungs. I didn't look back. Sometimes the hardest fire to escape is the one burning inside your own family. 6 months later, on a warm June morning, I stood on the stage at the Denver Fire Academy as the keynote speaker, looking down at 30 new recruits about to receive their badges. Once the evidence surfaced, everything moved fast. Samuel kept me informed. Blake showed no remorse, Warren. He denied everything, even with Chapman's confession, forensic proof, and the Griffin family testifying. The judge gave him 18 years federal time for conspiracy, fraud, perjury, and arson endangering lives. 18 years. Blake would be nearly 60 when released. Kendall's case was different. The judge recognized she'd been manipulated, Samuel said. She pleaded guilty, cooperated, and showed genuine remorse. 8 years reduced to 5 with good behavior. 5 years. My daughter would be 36 when free. Neil Chapman received 3 years and lost his accounting license permanently. I was fully exonerated. Judge Leonard Shaw issued a formal apology in open court. The city of Denver offered compensation for my wrongful conviction. I donated most of it to the firefighter charity fund and the Griffin family. My house savings and reputation were restored. Officer Curtis Flynn received the deed to a 4-bedroom home in Aurora exactly as promised. He cried when he got the keys. His wife hugged me for 5 minutes straight. Their daughter Lily began applying to medical schools. Flynn still visits monthly, bringing coffee and gratitude. 2 months after sentencing, I visited Kendall at the Federal Correctional Institution in Inglewood. She looked smaller in her prison uniform, no makeup, hair pulled back. Thank you for coming, she said. I know what I did destroyed our family, she continued through tears. I believed Blake. I didn't even question it. Why, I asked. Why was it so easy to believe I was corrupt? Because I didn't know you anymore, she said. After Mom died, you buried yourself in work. I felt second to strangers. When Blake said you were hiding money, it made sense. It meant you were selfish, not that you didn't care. The words cut deep. I worked so you'd have a future, I said quietly. I know that now. I'm truly sorry. We sat in silence. I forgive you, I said at last, but I can't forget yet. Maybe when you're free, we can try again. For now, I need distance. She nodded. I'll wait. At the door, I turned back. Your mother would want you to have a second chance. So do I. Now, standing before the recruits, I felt something close to hope. Governor Richmond sat in the front row, Captain Benson and Max Palmer beside her. In the third row sat Officer Flynn with his family. His 16-year-old son, Marcus, was graduating today, inspired to become a firefighter. I stepped to the microphone. 6 months ago, I thought my life was over, I said. I was handcuffed in court, convicted of crimes I didn't commit, watching my own daughter celebrate my downfall. The cadets listened, but I learned something. Family isn't always blood. Family is who runs into the flames with you, who believes you when the world collapses. I raised my hand, the ring catching the sun. This ring honors 100 of America's bravest firefighters. But every one of you is brave, not just for facing fire, but for choosing service over self. Applause erupted. Afterward, Marcus shook my hand. I want to be the kind of firefighter who keeps his word. Then you already are, I said. As the sun set, I felt peace. Some fires destroy, others forge something stronger. Looking back at this true story, I realized God was protecting me even when I felt most alone. This is one of those grandpa stories I never thought I'd live to tell, the kind where you lose everything and somehow find what really matters. If you're listening to this true story and thinking it could never happen to you, let me give you some advice. Don't make my mistakes. Don't let work consume you until your family becomes strangers. Don't assume blood guarantees loyalty. And most importantly, don't wait until you're handcuffed in a holding cell to realize who truly loves you. The lesson God taught me through this nightmare is simple. Real family isn't about DNA. It's about who shows up when your world is burning down. It's about the officer who risks his job to help a stranger. It's about 15 firefighters who stand with you when your own daughter won't. It's about a governor who remembers a debt 20 years old. These grandpa stories aren't just entertainment, they're warnings. This true story happened because I was too proud to ask for help, too busy to stay connected, too trusting of the wrong people. God gives us signs. I ignored mine until it was almost too late. So here's what I'm asking. Have you ever felt betrayed by someone you trusted completely? Have you learned the hard way who your real family is? Drop a comment below and share your story. Maybe it'll help someone else avoid my mistakes. And if these grandpa stories have taught you something, hit that subscribe button. Because sometimes the most important lessons come from the people who've already walked through the fire.